1939, the Germans marched into Poland. All schools were closed for the Jewish people. And all the stores were closed. You were not able to go to the store to buy your groceries, things that you need for everyday living. And life was almost impossible to live in Lodz. He was so ahead of his time, my father. He believed that women have to be educated. My father was absolutely brilliant and very giving and loved the three sisters. There were three of us. He loved us very much. So he said, we can't stay in Lodz any longer. And my mother had a family. Her father, her mother, and the whole family, her sisters, lived in a small village by the name Żarnów. He said, we have to take our belongings. The sooner we leave, the better. On the way to Żarnów, we were stopped by a German and a Pole. They took all our belongings, confiscated everything. We arrived in Żarnów, we had nothing. So we got into one room. In that one room, we ate, we slept there, and my father was making soap in order to live. And then suddenly there were rumors going around that the Germans are rounding up Jews all around, everywhere. He used to say, I remember, I'm 45 years old now, he says, I live my life, but I want my children to survive. He came with this idea that the only way we can survive is as we can pose as Christians. So, posing as Christians, you had to have some papers. Believe it or not, there was a woman that came quite often to see us from all the villages to buy soap and befriended the family. She came in and she said, I have some papers. I went to my priest and asked him for papers from my own daughters. She spoke to my father and told him that he should pick us up and take us to Warsaw, to another city, that nobody knew who we were. At that time, I was almost 15 years old. My father, he says, no matter what happens, no matter who you meet, you cannot trust anybody. Your neighbor is now Wanda Kazusek. When I said goodbye to my father and my mother at that time, I knew that I'll never see him again. I knew this was going to be the last time, because there were, there were rumors going around. We knew they would eventually going to come to the Żarnów and evacuate everybody, and from there they took him directly to Treblinka. No one survived at Treblinka. My father was so devoted to us, and he couldn't stand it when he said goodbye to us too. Mrs. Kazusek, she took us to Warsaw. This woman sacrificed her own life to give me papers for her own daughters, not even telling her husband. Just gave us the papers, not only gave us to us, but took us to her mother, and not even telling her own mother. The three of us stayed together. That's where people became very suspicious in the neighborhood. Teenagers. Why aren't you here with your father and your mother? What are you doing here? You must be Jews. She was somebody that I wanted to be. She was intelligent. She came from the aristocracy of Warsaw. She had always big parties and always invited people and always introduced me. And she told me always, Wanda, when the war is going to be over, I want to send you to school. I want to educate you. She was absolutely wonderful to me, and so was her husband, both of them. When I left my apartment building to go to the market to shop, I could see past the Warsaw Ghetto, and I could see the great big brick wall and the people looking out the window, looking at people with such an envy that I am free and they were starving. My heart was beating and breaking for these people. One day I come home and there were one Nazi in uniform and one Pole. The German, the gun, pointed me at my back. And the Pole started to interrogate me. What is your name? I said, Wanda Kazusek. Where are you from? I said, I'm from Żarnów. I said, why are you here? All these questions. And then asked me, tell me, do you ever go to church? I said, yes, I go to church. How often do you go to church? I go every Sunday. And what do you do when you go to church? I said, I pray. Well, did you ever go to communion? That's what he really got me. He says, get up. Get up. You're a Jew, and you know what happened to Jewish people. You're going to be shot. Get your clothes and come with me. When he said that, she got up. She says, wait a minute. I know this child. She's been working for me for 2 years. I guarantee that she's not Jewish. She convinced him because they thought to themselves, obviously, why would somebody like her keep somebody Jew, because she would be sent to concentration camp too. But before they left, they told me, we're going to write to your parents. If they're going to be another Vanda Kazusek, we know where to find you. Every time that somebody knocked at the door, I thought they're coming after me. When my sister came and I told her the story, she said, you know what? If I were you, I would leave the place immediately. They're going to come to get you. And I said, you know what? I have no place to go. I'm taking a chance. They were very brave, because how could you fight? These people had no ammunition, they did their own weapons themselves in the ghetto. When the Warsaw ghetto was burning, the Germans found out that there were some children hiding in the basements. So they burned the basement, and it was the people there, and all night long you could hear screaming and carrying on. And I'm standing there with her, watching the flames, and the three of us, her husband, and I cry because I hear the screaming. And she said, Vanda, why are you crying? I said, because I feel so sorry for them. These people are dying there. She put her arms around me, and God is the truth, that this is not a lie. I'll never forget this. Vanda, I feel sorry for them as human beings, but as Jews, let them burn. This is this wonderful woman that loved so much. But she said that there was something like somebody would stick a dagger right in my heart. She had everything. Why? Why did she hate? What did they do to her, these people? In that uprising, I was in that uprising. Never revealed to anybody I was Jewish. But I listened to my father. I listened, because that man was so brilliant, and he told me, he never told this anybody. And so what happened is, we were in the uprising, there was no food, people were dying of dysentery. All night long she was stuffing gold in the soaps. Gave me one briefcase, she kept another briefcase. She gave me one her fur coat, she wore another fur coat. So we were all going a train. And from that train, you moved to another train to go to Germany. All of a sudden, I noticed people were running the train tracks. I turn around and I see the woman, the wonderful woman, she's on the other side already. Didn't say one word to me. She knows it was an opportunity for her to run. And that gave me courage to run too. So I kept on looking around. And I look around, and every few feet there is a German with a machine gun, not Gestapo, but Wehrmacht with soldiers. He had a good face, and I, please, sir, in German, please, sir, let me go. I've got my mother living in the city here. Please, let me go. Oh, no, you got to go to Germany. We need people like you. And I kept on bugging him. All of a sudden, a woman stayed next to me, grabbed my hand, said, he's giving you a sign to run. He turned his head around and tells you to run. My father said to me, whenever you're going to be in danger, use a prayer, say a prayer. I said the prayer to myself, and I dropped that briefcase with the gold because it was too heavy. I hold on to the loaf of bread that I had on my arm, say my prayer, and I ran the train tracks, and I was free on the other side. Being outside as a non-Jew, try to pretend that you're somebody else, it was not easy. It was not easy, trust me. to live in fear every single day that you're going to be recognized. It was a truly miracle that I survived, and what was I being untouched. Thank God. And that's why maybe I'm so happy.
Before being liberated by the Russians, Halina continued to survive with her false identity. Even when working as a cook for the German army on the fighting lines, her secret was never revealed. Now, after the war, she was reunited with her two sisters, Helen and Nana. They were the only Holocaust survivors from Jarno, where they last lived with their parents, and were the only ones of their family to make it. The sisters worked in a deli run by Holocaust survivors in Lodz, Poland, where she met her husband, Alan Zimm. Now, his story begins in Koła, Poland, where he was 17 when the Nazis first started rounding up Jewish Poles.
My town where I was born was about 10 miles away, was an old castle, Old castle was empty, it was not. But when the Nazis came in, they occupied it, took it, and rebuilt it. So nobody knew why they were doing that. They started killing the Jews the same night they attacked Russia. After the Germans attacked Russia, they came to in my town and told all the people to come and gather at a square, a big square. The Germans took all the men in Germany and mobilized them in the army. So there was a shortage of workers. So they took farmers and people from the villages and sent them to Germany. I escaped. I ran away. I didn't trust the Germans because I had friends, Polish friends. His brother, oldest brother, was an engineer by profession, but the Germans mobilized him to run a truck. He was driving the truck, but they were telling everybody, you're going there to work on a farm. And that wasn't true. They loaded him up in the trucks. The time from the town to get to the castle. They killed 280,000 people there. He told me he crossed himself. Don't tell this anybody. My parents made me promise I'll never mention it to anybody because they will kill him and his family, if they find out that he divulged the secret. I ran away from one town to another. They took us out and put us in a train, and we were going to Germany. And we were in the mountains going there for 2 days like that. And then in the middle of the night, the train stopped. It was 1,000 prisoners in the train. Made everybody out of the train. And the guards, the Gestapo, had dogs, big shepherd dogs. If you didn't move fast enough, they put the dog on you and kill you, or shoot you. They killed a lot of people on the way there. From the train to the camp.
Did you see this happen?
Yeah. We see dead bodies. He got used to it. He didn't pay attention to it.
Were you afraid all the time?
Yeah, well, I made sure I go fast and didn't fall down. And so from there, they took me to Buchenwald, the largest concentration camp in Germany. They took away all our clothes and gave us the same uniforms with numbers here. I had a number, I still remember, 115, 118. So in the middle of the night again, they came and woke us up and took us out on a train in the mountainous area. There was a big square, called it Appellplatz. And there we have to line up. A lot of engineers and scientists, German, came and picked out groups. About 50 yards away was a big entrance. The train stopped inside a factory. They're loading up the rockets on the train. But we didn't know. And the German engineer taught me how to operate the machine. how to make the parts to the rocket. Where he went, I never knew, actually. I was just making the parts. Still the name of it, I know. They called it Dieselkerper. It was a big ring, a metal ring, and I had the machine was drilling holes, different sizes. He told us, you have to produce 20 of these a day, and you shift. Among the 20, if 4 are going to be defective or damaged, it's considered sabotage. And they hang people for that. And they were hanging people there every day. They were laying stacks of bodies. We walked through in the morning to the work, and they were laying stacks of dead people. It was very frightening. I made sure I make 25 or 24. If 4 of them be damaged, so I still have 20 good ones. But I was lucky that there were none of them were damaged. That my engineer liked I was doing. He was very nice to me. He was bringing sandwiches and was hiding in the machine for me. And I was hiding it under my shirt. You know, none of my prisoners could see it because they knock you down, take it away from you. He was a German engineer, but he was a nice man. He was not a Nazi. See, not all Germans were Nazis, and not all Nazis are German. I wouldn't be for him, I couldn't survive. Because when they give you the food, couldn't keep you walking even.
What was it?
At 6 o'clock in the morning, they'll wake you up and give you a bowl of turnip soup. No potatoes. Food would give you the soup and a piece of bread. It was a bread like that, the black. And you squeeze it and you throw it against the wall and it would stick. That's what you ate. And we worked there about 5.5 months. During that time, the Russians are already in Germany, eastern part, and the Allies made the invasion. They were already from France, liberated France, and they were already moving to Germany. And the Germans realized they lost the war already then. Before we evacuated from Dora, my engineer picked 100 men to stay behind. Everybody was gone already. 30,000 prisoners were evacuated. Where they went, we never knew. And he kept us there. What we were doing is burning all the blueprints from the rocket and cutting up the cables from the machine. And from there, we went to Bergen-Belsen. When we were leaving, I still remember what he said to me then. If you're going to live 2 more weeks, you're going to survive the war and you will be liberated. And exactly to the 2 weeks where I was liberated, 15th of April, 1945, we were liberated by the British. Exactly at 9 o'clock, they arrived in the camp. Was trucks with soldiers, British soldiers. They took over the whole camp. They disarmed all the Nazis, took away the guns from them, and put in an enclosure, separated them, because they were afraid the prisoners were going to kill them. And with loudspeakers, they announced, from now on, you're liberated by the Allied forces. You're free. You're liberated. And the Nazis have nothing to do with you. You're free people. And then they spoke in different languages that you were free. And people started jumping up and down. They didn't know what to do. And we were hugging each other. I went back to my hometown and nobody survived. Nobody. And a friend of mine, I went to school with him, and he told me to run away. When he saw me, when I arrived, I went to see him. He looked up to the sky and crossed himself. He thought I'd come from heaven. He didn't know I would survive, that nobody survived. In life, you have to be lucky. I believed in faith that somehow I'm going to survive the war. I believed it. And some people get depressed and they didn't know I didn't. I always looked up, not down. People look down to look for food. I didn't. I looked up in the sky.